You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 116, Writing into the Dark with Dean Wesley Smith. This episode of the Wordslinger Podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. Thanks so much for tuning in again. I really appreciate when you come by. I really do. I try to clean the place up a little. I actually, despite the fact that we moved into this apartment back in April, 1st of April, we're still kind of doing some unpacking and moving things around. It's crazy, but most of that's due to the extensive travel that Kara and I have both been doing. The joke right now is that, we were always praying, years ago we were always praying about getting the RV, and we were always praying about traveling, but we probably should have spent a little bit of time praying that we would be traveling together in the RV. Because now we basically we each end up flying to our own separate destinations quite frequently. So anyway, but that's been good. It's been, it's a little exhausting when you're traveling that much, but it's actually been pretty good for both of us, I think. Now we'll start doing some more traveling together soon. We have a trip planned for October anyway, for Boston and the surrounding area. We're thinking about being in Salem for Halloween. Now, how cool is that? So, if you're in that area, let me know. We'll try to. We want to spend some time together and hang out and do stuff, but I'd love to see some people that I don't get to see very often. So if you're in the Boston area, let me know. I wanted to take a minute to thank a listener, Jason A. Dimmick, actually. He's an author, and he sent me a copy of his book, which, by the way, Jason, it's an incredible cover. It's his series is called Armor of the Fallen. This is book 1 that he sent me, Wielder of the Gauntlets, and it's got this... it's a kid in a hoodie, but with like a mystic gauntlet on. You can see his sneakers and everything. He's overlooking like a city skyline. It's reminiscent, I'm going to say, of a certain Wordslinger book called Evergreen, at least in the tone. I think it's cool. He wrote a very nice inscription inside. And Jason, I didn't ask your permission, but I'm going to read it anyway, and you can slap me around later if you didn't like that. I apologize. But it was such a nice inscription, I wanted to read it. Kevin, thank you for being a great inspiration to me as I begin my author career. The Wordslinger podcast played a big part in motivating me to finish this book, and I always look forward to the great content you have on it. I wish you much more creative success in all your future endeavors and pray that God will bless your life and your writing for many years to come. Sincerely, Jason A. Dimmick. And if I'm mispronouncing your name, Jason, I apologize. I didn't ask you in advance. But that seems like a logical pronunciation. So, at any rate, I'm always thrilled. It's always very impactful to me. 1 second, I'll clear my throat. Now, isn't that better? It's always very impactful to me to get feedback from people. You do not have to send me your book or anything like that. I do appreciate that sort of thing, but you need to be selling your books. You need to be selling your stuff. So don't give everything away for free all the time. So, but I don't mind. I mean, it's fine. But I do appreciate when I get feedback like this because it makes me realize just how much of an impact the show has. And at this point, there have been times, I will admit, where I go back and forth and I wonder, should I continue the show? And I think I should. I mean, I'm not going to, nobody panic. But I wonder, should I continue the show? Is it producing the effect I'm after? Am I benefiting from it personally, but also am I providing something that benefits others? And I believe I am. And the feedback I'm getting seems to suggest that I am. So, at any rate, I do appreciate that, Jason. Thank you for everyone who sends in notes and phone calls and messages on Facebook, telling me how much you like the show. I do appreciate that. It has a huge impact on me, by the way. Like I might be in a totally negative headspace and get one of these, and I feel much better. Now, getting on with show-related stuff, we've got today. We're going to hear an interview from Dean Wesley Smith. And if you haven't followed this guy's career, who are you and what world have you invaded us from? Because he's one of the most prolific authors I know. And he had a very long and lucrative traditional career, but has since shifted to being an indie publisher. I love this guy's philosophy. So basically, for years now, past several years, for past several years, people have recommended his work to me. And I mean his nonfiction work. I had actually read quite a bit of his fiction without realizing it was him. Because I used to read, like, basically every Star Trek adaptation there is, plus a few of the, there was some comic book stuff and everything, so he's written a lot of books that I've read, well, mostly when I was younger, but I have followed his career without realizing I was following it, but people kept recommending his nonfiction work, specifically the book Writing into the Dark, which is, informs the title of this episode. And it took me a while to get around to it because, everybody has a million books that they tell you absolutely must read. I think the reason people kept recommending this one to me, though, is because of how similar Dean's philosophy is to my own. So when I talk to people about writing and editing, the advice I give them is almost word for word the advice that Dean gives in his book, Writing into the Dark. So if you're a writer, if you're an author, I highly recommend this book. Now, this is geared a great deal towards those of the pantsing crowd. If you're a plotter, you might. I still think you get something out of this. I should probably say that I don't have an objection to plotting as a philosophy or as a method, I guess, but it's never been my cup of tea. And the number of times I've tried it, I've never been able to do it in a way that was satisfactory to me. It always seemed like I was tripling my work, basically, and taking too long to get to the stuff that, the parts that were really the motivation to write in the first place. Like, I'm here to tell a story, and I want to tell that story right now. And I want to discover that story in the same pace that the reader discovers the story. So that's why pantsing has always been for me, and I think that's why it's it works for a lot of people. That's the way my brain is organized, and the other people are much better at plotting and figuring everything out in advance, and then going back and sort of filling in the gaps. And I think that's incredible. That's an incredible skill. I've never had it. Way back in school, when they would have you outline papers, I would literally write the paper and then go back and outline from the essay so that I could just fulfill the requirements of the assignment. I was never able to just outline and then create from an outline. Never. So that may not shock many people. But anyway, this interview with Dean Wesley Smith is fantastic. I hope you enjoy it. We'll get right into it, and stick around after. We'll do some housekeeping and kind of get everything else out of the way. So take care, and I'll see you after this interview with Dean Wesley Smith. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. And now today I'm actually chatting with somebody who's become something of a recent hero of mine. And unbeknownst to me, I'd actually read quite a few of this man's books over the years and never quite put it together. But today I'm chatting with Dean Wesley Smith, and he is, among other things, the author of Writing into the Dark, plus a few hundred more, like 150 more other books that you may have read, and I hope you do. Dean, I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm really glad to have you here.
My pleasure. It's good to be here. Thank you.
No, and I'm going to tell everybody up front we're on a slight delay. So if I ask a question, Dean is not ignoring me. At least I don't think he is. He might choose to a little later. But anyway.
No, that's okay.
So Dean, first, I have to tell you, I for whatever reason, I never got around to reading Riding Into the Dark until recently. And it had been actually recommended to me several times, and for some reason it kept kind of slipping, kind of off my shelf there. But about a week ago, I picked it up and read it. And one of the things I really dig about it is you and I share certain philosophies when it comes to writing. Now, I'm a complete pantser. I write into the dark. I always have. And a lot of people that I have worked with in the past are just completely freaked out about that. But that's really sort of your philosophy too, right?
100%. I when I was doing media books back in 20 years ago, I had to do outlines because outlines had to be approved. I hated that process, just loathed it. And then what I would do is I'd get the outline approved. I would never look at it again. And it would, be months and months earlier that the outline was done. I'd never look at it again. I'd just write the novel I wanted to write in the dark. So even when I had to do it for media, I would do the outline and then ignore it. Just didn't work for me to try to follow an outline.
Yeah, no, I've had trouble myself. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a process for me of being able to actually create as I go along, and that's where the fun for me is. I want to. For me, the writing process is like the reading process. I'm exploring and reading a book, writing a book at the same time. That I want to find out where it goes, and if I know all the details and where it's going, I have a very low threshold of oh shiny is what Chris calls it, where I just run off into the distance and do something else.
Right.
So I get bored easy, and so I try to keep myself entertained, and that way I figure the readers will be entertained.
That's I think that's a good philosophy, and one of the things I've really enjoyed about this book in particular, and I also read your the Heinlein's 5 business rules, or I could be completely butchering the title, but I read
just Heinlein's rules. That's what it's called.
Yeah, and also excellent. And you kind of referred to this book in there, which is what sort of led me back to it. And I've completely lost track of what I actually the point I was actually going to make with this, but I have enjoyed kind of seeing sort of one of the things I've noticed is that I've had a hard time in the past articulating to people why I write the way I write. So I've really enjoyed seeing your take on it, because it's kind of like you just sort of picked up what I was trying to say to people and put it into print. So I appreciate it.
Early on for me, I thought I was weird because I had that same kind of reaction from people. Oh no, you have to outline. Oh no, you have to do this. You have to do that. And now I write a series of mystery novels called in my Cold Poker Game universe. They're very, very, very complex puzzle mysteries set in Las Vegas, and they're puzzle mysteries. And people say, "How can you write a puzzle mystery where you don't know?" I have no idea. I just let my detectives, figure it out as I go along as I'm writing, and they become very complex and very twisted. And the key with writing into the dark is knowing that you don't have to write it from word one to the last word. That really is the key.
Right.
Once you get that out of your head, and that you don't have to write it like a reader reads it, you can jump out and go back and fix things. And so I fix everything as I go. I never leave anything. I never write sloppy.
Yeah.
I never write what people call first draft. I just find that lazy. I just write one draft, and when I'm at the end, I'm done.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm constantly going back and fixing all the way through, just kind of cycling back until I get to the end. And when I'm at the end, I put it away and never look at it again. I give it to someone to deal with and never look at it.
And I got to tell you, I think I like that method much more. So when I encountered that whole concept in the book, I thought, well, I write, the way I read. I mean, I write it a lineal novel, as you put it. That's the way I always thought of it. And then I realized I don't, because I do write from beginning to end. I put one scene in front of the other, But I do exactly what you talked about. Like I loop back. I just sort of do it. I don't do it as sort of regimented as you do, I think. What I do is I get to a point where I'm sort of stuck. And you gave an analogy about being, digging a tunnel that I felt fit pretty well. Because I'll get to a point where I'm like, I cannot move forward. I'm in the muddy middle, as they call it. And I can't move forward because something is blocking me. And I don't know what it is. So I'll start, earlier in the book. And I'll remember, I didn't include this, or I did include that, and it's really sent me on a bad path. And then I'll go fix that and come right back to where I am, sort of like an edit pass. Yeah. So to me, that's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not an edit pass. It's still in your creative voice. That's the difference. When you put something away for a week and then come back at it cold, your creative voice is like a 2-year-old. It's moved on. It doesn't care anymore. And so you come at it with your critical voice, and your critical voice isn't as good as your creative voice. It just isn't. That's where all the garbage that we have learned is stuck, is in our critical voice. The creative voice is the kid in the back that can just play, and it knows all this stuff. It knows how to do things that we don't even realize we know how to do, and put stuff in the book that we don't even realize why we're putting it in the book.
Right.
It's the smart part of us.
It really is.
One of the aspects, it frighteningly is. Yeah. And so one of the aspects of not looking at it that way is I always stay in creative mode when I go back and fix something. And the way I look at it is I bog down, I kind of go, and get stuck, and I'll jump out immediately, go back a certain number of pages, and then just start tinkering and still in creative mode until it's like I pick up speed, and then I can ram through the spot that I was stuck and just keep writing. Yeah. And then I get stuck again, and then I go back, and then I do it again. So it's a constant, back, forward, and so it looks like, if I actually diagrammed it, it looks like I'm doing little circles. Yeah. Just cycling back, all the way through the whole novel. Yeah. And I very seldom go back to the beginning unless I have to fix something. I get to something and go, that needs to be in the beginning, and then I'll go all the way back and fix it in the beginning. I'm going to totally adopt. But I do write from first word on, too. Yeah, good. Yeah, well, I knew you did. I mean, I kind of followed. I mean, I know that you will sometimes jump to a whole different scene, or the non-lineal part of your writing. Do you do that often, or is that? I mean, because I know you go beginning to end, but I mean, are you frequently finding that you come to a point where you're like, I don't know how this scene is going to end, so I'm going to write something else, or is that when you jump back and start? No. Okay. That's when I jump. I go backwards. I go back. Yeah. And run at it again. Yeah. 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 I never jump ahead. If I jump ahead, that usually means that there's nothing between the spot that I was and the spot that I needed to write. Right. And I just don't know it yet. Okay. And that's when you would start kind of trimming maybe some stuff out. Like that's that diverging path then, right? The extra words. Yeah. I never cut anything out until the book is done. Okay. I wait until the whole product is sitting there because I don't trust my critical voice at all. Right. I don't trust that voice that says that's not good. The minute I hear myself saying something negative, I immediately stop that. Because creative voice only works in positive. It only is positive. Okay. And so when you hear yourself say, "Oh, that sucks," that's your critical voice, and you should ignore it. Yeah. You play only in the creative voice. And then when I get all the way to the end of the book, I can look back and say, oh, that whole loop there is what I call a New York loop. Because I had 100 novels in traditional publishing, I was forced to write at 70 to 80 to 90,000 words by contract. Right. My normal length is what I grew up reading, which is back in the 50,000 word length. Right. And so how I got 50,000 words to 90 or 80,000 words is I would put just useless, what I call character loops, where the characters would run off in a direction, have a little adventure, and come right back to the same spot. Right. And, it's just like a loose thread sticking off in the thing, and I will cut those out when I see them. Yeah. My New York loops. And that's where most of my books come in, about 1,000. Yeah. About how I missed my modern books come in. Most of them come in at what length? About 50,000. Okay.
That's me too, I keep so I've run into people who've not liked that. To me, it's a comfortable length for the book. It's usually the whole story is told, everything is wrapped up, every character has, had their arc, and I feel pretty good about the book. But there are people out there who do not like that length for novels.
Yeah, it's what's really frightening is how traditional publishing changed everything. For 100 more years, novels were in the range from the 35,000 to the 50,000. That was a normal novel. They very seldom got longer than that.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects of traditional publishing is there was a point in time in the middle 80s where they had to start charging more for their books, and they had no way that they could, so that they basically forced the authors to write a little bit more so they could make the books thicker, because the printing was the cheap part.
Right.
And therefore they could charge more. And
Right.
that just kept going on and on and on all the way through the 90s until suddenly we got up to these big tomes. And it was mostly by contract forcing writers to write longer. And it just sort of trained a generation. But for hundreds of years, the average novel length ran from 30, 35,000, 40,000, 50,000. It's the normal length for telling that kind of story.
Right.
And the only way you can really get a lot of books, except for the big fantasies and things like that, is to do plot loops.
Right.
And it's just the nature of the beast, and it still goes on.
Yeah, it does.
I talked to some of my traditional writing friends, and they're still doing plot loops. They know they do them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Run their characters off on a little side mission.
Right, and it almost kind of feels like they're, I don't know, it feels necessary sometimes because you're so used to reading it now, and maybe that's what people think are missing.
Yeah.
When they don't see it.
Yeah, and I like the old the novels, the traditional science fiction and mystery novels from the 50s and 60s and 70s and stuff. That's where I grew up reading, and I love that form, and it just stuck in my head, and that's where I went back to when I could, now that I'm an indie published writer.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things, by the way, I've appreciated about you. I mean, first of all, the media books were something I was always interested in, and I never could find anybody who could tell me how to get into that business. So now that I have you on the line, I'm going to ask you. But I want to first say that one of the things I've appreciated most about you, I'm a huge advocate of indie publishing, of course, and and I work with Drafted Digital, and that's what we're all about. But the fact that you produce a great volume of work that's aimed at encouraging indie authors, I think that's something that all of us can appreciate. So I'm very grateful to you for that. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for the comments. Yeah, we actually also do some online workshops through WMG. Yeah. You can find them on my website at deanwesleysmith.com. But we do that, and yeah. But WMG is the company that Chris and I started to as an indie press, and now it publishes quite a bit of stuff. I think WMG has over 600 titles now.
Yeah, wow.
So it's doing gangbusters.
And
I'm not involved
yours.
that much, other than I'm the CFO. No, not really. But a good chunk of them are. Yeah.
I can see
quite a few of them are, but yeah, we do other authors too. Through some of our other series. But I have my own magazine too. That's the nice thing. I know, and I've been doing Smith's Monthly now.
Yeah,
for 3 years.
Very cool. Yeah, I completely stole your model for making a living with short fiction. I'm going to adapt it and use it for my own, because I have a love for short fiction as well, and I published quite a few of my short stories and novellas as ebooks. I just never really I need to approach markets more. You're big on approaching actual publications, which I never do for some reason. So I feel like I'm leaving money on the table here.
Yeah, you probably are. You probably are. The top magazines, the ones that pay 5 cents a word and up.
Yeah.
They will have the subscribers because they can afford to pay that, and therefore it's like free advertising for your other work.
Right.
Because you read a story in Asimov's and you really like it. What's the first thing any reader does? They go online and see what the author has.
Right.
Oh, what else does that author have? And they go over here and then they buy authors' books.
Yeah.
It's free advertising, and they pay you. They pay you to be in their magazine.
Yeah. After reading that, I realized, I'm a big dummy, because I submitted for years starting in like the 80s, I was submitting, and when I was a kid, and I was never getting anywhere with it, and so I got frustrated with it, and I think that's why I don't think of it now. I got a couple of, every now and then I'd get something published, and it'd be a few bucks, but I always kind of, once I discovered indie publishing, I'm like, yeah, I'll just do that.
Yeah, it's much more. Indie publishing is so much more fun.
Yeah.
And, I have all of my short stories, which is hundreds of them, out standalone, and as well as in my magazine, as well as in collections, so they're doing double and triple duty out there now.
Yeah.
So it never hurts to add another cash stream in by trying to sell them first.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm totally doing it. And I'm going to try. I need to remember to link to your article about that on your blog. And, that, you share so openly, so I appreciate that, man. Because one of the things that's great about indie authors in particular is that there is that sort of open, everybody shares everything they know. And, a lot of people just sort of reshare stuff they learn from you, I'm thinking. Because I've seen a lot of your stuff. I'm like, oh, I've seen people quote that a few hundred times now. You're a source.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, I have on my list here, I'm going to redo the short story, Making a Live with Short Story, to update it, because I think I update it about every 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to, it's time that I update it again and get it up to the 2017, because there's more ways of making money now with short fiction than there were even before.
Well, listen, if you need a beta reader for that,
I'm going to update it here. Yeah, it's going to be in the next month or two.
Good. I'll be looking forward to
I'm
that.
going to do I'm doing a Magic Bakery book next.
Oh,
that's about copyright. Trying to explain copyright to people and how you can actually, like you take if copyright is, if your copyright on a short story is a pie, and what's nice about the Magic Bakery is copyright is you can take a piece of the pie out, and that piece reappears, and you can sell it again, and you can sell it again.
Yeah,
it's great.
Okay,
magic.
I'm
magic.
looking forward to that. Yeah, magic.
Yeah,
because
that'll
is
actually
something.
be another book, but it'll be blogs on my website.
Okay. Yeah, that is something that people have a hard time understanding. I also, I've been in the business for quite a while now, and I still sometimes kind of flip concepts or something, and don't always understand how the rights work. So that'll be useful. I'll read that.
It'll be a fun one.
So I did want to get back to the media books, because that's, again, like I said, now I've met like Peter David, who is another big media book author, and am I using the right term? Is that, because I never know what to call them. Mentally, I think I refer to them as like IP books, because they're someone else's intellectual property. Mm-hmm. But I've always been curious about that. Like, how did you get into that?
I tripped and fell into it.
Okay, yeah, that seems to be the normal path.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. You have to have a career going anyhow with your own work.
Right.
That's number one. And so you can't start off as a beginning writer and go into media. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Basically, my quick story is I was editing Pulp House magazine, and I had bought a story from a writer by the name of John Ordorber. And he and Chris was editing FNSF magazine. My wife, Christine Catherine Roch, was editing the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. And so John needed something to do with something. And so he called Chris, and they were talking on the phone. And we had just watched the premiere of Deep Space Nine 3 days before it actually premiered, because back in those days you could intercept it with a big satellite dish.
Right.
With a big satellite dish, we could intercept the feed from the east to the west coast. And we watched Deep Space Nine, and we loved it. And John said, "Oh, did you guys like that?" And we were talking about that. He was talking with Chris about that. And he said, "I'm the new editor at Pocket Books for the Star Trek line, and I need writers."
Oh, man.
And so Chris and I said, "Sure, we'll write one of the very first Deep Space Nine." And then we became basically, and it was me doing it, although Chris's name's on a lot of the books, but a lot of them I wrote just alone, because Chris was busy doing other things.
Right.
It was one of those things where we started doing that, and we became known as, major. We were part of that crew. There was like 6 or 7 writers, including Peter David and a few like that, and L.A. Graff and others. And basically, we were doing all the Star Trek books. And Chris and I always did the first original. So we did the first original Enterprise. We did the first original Voyager, first novel. Literally writing the book far before the show premiered, just from scripts. And then I worked with Paramount on some Star Trek stuff, and did a movie that turned into a game, Klingon.
Yes, which I owned.
Like that.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, I owned that
I'm so
game.
sorry.
No, I actually liked it. But I was a big Star Trek nerd. I was a Next Generation nerd at the time, so I bought everything that came out, and I owned that. I even had the bumper sticker that came with it.
It was fun to do.
I bet.
Yeah, it was fun to do. Jonathan Frakes directed that, actually, and it was great fun.
Yeah,
and,
actually, I think I knew
getting,
that. Yeah.
Chris and I ended up getting story credit. Yeah, and but I actually did the script for it.
Oh,
it was fun. But did a lot of stuff like that. I did 35. I think I did 35 or 38 Star Trek novels and projects along the way, and then I did the original Men in Black novels, and I did Spider-Man and X-Men novels, and God, it goes on and on. Gaming novels. And, But it was all because of that one phone call that I had bought a story from a guy that ended up getting hired, and we already had careers. We already had novels sold and out, and he said, "You guys want to do this?" And I just loved it. I had a blast.
Yeah.
It was a great decade of writing nothing but that, and more fun than anything.
Yeah, I could totally get behind. I mean, I always wanted to write some of those. I mean, because I was a fan and I had story ideas and I know where to put them basically. So these days I'll just write it, and it's Star Trek in my head, but becomes Citadel, when I take it to print or whatever. So I just steal my own stories.
Exactly, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, make it your own. Make it your own.
Yeah,
that's exactly the way to do it.
So looking at I was looking at your catalog of books on Amazon, and I'm like, yep, I read that. I never put it together. Yeah. So I've read a ton of your books and didn't know it until recently. So sorry about that.
Well, I also wrote it under. No, that's fine. I know I'm that way. I know I'm one of the best read unknown authors out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 21 million copies of my books in print right now.
Right.
And so when you have 21 million, a lot of people are reading your stuff and never associate the name.
Right.
It just is. It's just. I'm fine with that. I don't mind. I don't want to be famous. I just want to keep writing and having fun.
Right.
And so I have no desire to be famous.
As long as
in fact, I'm glad I have followed this career.
Yeah. So you now you no longer do those though, right? Did you walk away from it for any particular reason?
Yeah, I got tired. Just got tired of it.
Yeah.
And tired of dealing with having to do the outlines. I wanted to write my own stuff.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, indie hadn't hit yet.
Yeah.
And so I basically said, I'm done, and I sort of walked away. I was doing ghost projects too. I was a ghostwriter.
Okay.
I wasn't a ghostwriter for authors. I was a ghostwriter when New York publishers said, we've got a big name author that can't hit his deadline, and we've already advertised the book.
Yeah.
And I would step in and write the book for the New York Times bestseller.
I didn't even know that was an option.
Not only have I been a bestseller under my own name, but I've been a bestseller under a whole bunch of other people's names.
Wow, all right.
And then I ghosted quite a bit for a while there, and that was really good money because when they need something really, really fast, they pay you really, really a lot.
I bet.
And so that was, and I'm known as a fast, good writer.
Yeah.
I can write clean copy fast.
Yeah.
And so many publishers came to me and said, Dean, save us here.
Yeah.
And I did that, off and on, but that got tiring too.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I had a series of books under a pen name because I couldn't sell original books after I got so well known as a media writer. I couldn't sell original books under Dean Wesley Smith because nobody in New York wanted to have that name contaminated. So, I was writing thrillers and they would go, oh, we don't want, the reviews to say media writer or Star Trek writer Dean Wesley Smith writing in as a thriller. So I had to write under pen names, which I signed do not disclose, and they're still in print, so I can't tell anybody about them.
Really?
Other than I wrote thrillers out there. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
See, that would bug me.
Yeah. Can't tell anybody. You get used to it.
Yeah.
I've got about 50 or 60 novels out there that are under other names that nobody knows I wrote.
Yeah, that's just incredible.
It was part of what I did. It was part of what I did as that's what I did. Made a living, had fun.
Yeah.
Had to write.
And I
have no problem with it.
That's the other thing about indie publishing is, cross genre. I mean, it's not always advised, but heck, if you want to write in any genre you want, write in any genre you want.
Yep,
Who's going to stop you?
I do.
yeah, you do.
Yeah, and I do, and yeah, I do completely. And what you have to do with that is just make sure that your branding on your covers and
right.
and your blurbs and everything tell the reader exactly what you're writing, so they don't get it confused with your Star Trek or
right.
or with something else. And so,
right. Yeah.
I write across all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, one of the things
nature of that beast.
Yeah. And one of the things that you wrote about in Writing Into the Dark that I kind of chuckled at was because I struggle with the outlining thing, and I'm kind of being asked to submit an outline for something now, and I'm chafing against it. But the idea that you would pitch the outline, and then once the book was approved, you never looked at it again. You just went and wrote the book, which I'm like, yeah, that's a way to go.
I never looked at it again, and I realized that worked on, I think, the second or third book that I did in media, because I lost the outline.
Okay.
I turned in this outline and totally lost it. Couldn't find it. And I went, well, what the heck? I'll just write the book anyhow. And I wrote it into the dark like I do my original novels, and I had a blast doing it. It worked out great. I turned it into the editor. The editor said, perfect. Paramount approved it, and off we went. And so from that point on, I never worried about it. I just do the outline like it was another exercise, and then be done with it.
Yeah, sometimes I think
because I lost one.
Yeah, I think most of the time they don't even look at the actual outline. They just want to see where you're going with it, I think. Do you think that's it?
Right, and you're not doing something stupid. Yeah, and you're not doing something stupid.
Yeah.
It goes against the parameters of the media world that you're writing in.
Right. Yeah. So I can kind of understand it. I mean, I come across authors all the time who just swear by their outlines, and and I have a writing partner. He and I have worked on some things together. I will admit that because he loves the outlines, so he'll write the outline and then he'll hand it to me and I'll write the book. I think what worked out for us last time is he forgot to finish the outline. He didn't write the ending, so I had carte blanche to just do whatever I wanted. So it worked out really well.
I had that on a movie novelization actually happen. I got the script. I was supposed to novelize the movie Final Fantasy.
Right.
The one that was that sort of, whatever it was. It was the Final Fantasy movie.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to novelize it. And I got right to the end. I'm following along with the script and putting it all in. And then there wasn't anything more. And I'm going, that's not the end. And so I called one of the producers. And he said, we haven't got there yet. And I'm like, I got to have this book turned in a couple days here. And he goes, just make something up. And I'm like, okay. And so I created an ending, and it turns out they ended up using most of it at the movie.
Nice. Movie. That's nice. See, okay.
So they liked what I did. They liked what I did. Yeah, that whole bird scene at the end of the movie, I just made that shit up.
Nice. Okay. First of all, I have heard a similar story to that before. And I think it was Peter David actually who was writing adaptation of maybe it was one of the Hulk movies or something. But he gets to the end and there's no, they won't tell him the ending because it's classified or something, and so he just made up an ending. Yeah. Now in his case, they did not use his ending, so of course the fans get pissed because it has nothing to do with the movie at that point. But it's probably
nothing
better.
to do with the movie. Yeah, yeah. I thought it was just a lark, and it was funny because no, we're not there yet. We don't know how we're going to end it. I'm thinking you're doing this movie like a book from the front to the back, but it was that kind of graphic illustration that they were doing in that.
Yeah.
It was kind of of that Final Fantasy. I don't know what the technique was called, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I remember that movie coming out. That's where I first learned of the term "uncanny divide."
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, I did a lot of really, really strange movie novelizations. Did one for the movie where they bored to the center of the earth, and they had a mineral in there that they used for the ship, and it was called unobtainium.
Oh.
And I read this in the script, and I started laughing. I called my editor, and I said, "Is this for real?" He was laughing. He said, "Yep, that's what they call it," and they actually call it in the movie.
That's funny.
Unobtainium.
They use that again. Did you see Avatar? That's the element that they were after in Avatar.
Oh, did Cameron steal that?
Yeah, I think so.
Funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Such a ludicrous
he's known for borrowing stuff.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Unobtainium.
Well, I mean, I've heard worse. I've heard worse things.
Yeah.
At least it sounds like an
Well,
element.
yeah, some of the Star Trek babble could really go on.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Just making stuff up about. Oh. It was great fun. Yeah, so writing media was really, really a good time.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, especially if you're a fan of the property, and getting to kind of play around with the characters, and you're not going to be allowed to do anything too drastic. You can't have the Borg surrender to the Federation or something, but I mean, you can do some cool stuff, and fans go crazy over that kind of thing. I'm surprised that I've seen that market kind of dwindle from my perspective. I don't see as much of it as I used to, and I'm not sure why.
And also it doesn't pay much for the writers anymore.
I bet.
I mean, I was making really good money, and now the writers, they'll make $3,000 to $5,000 a book.
Yeah.
For a Star Trek book, it's just not it's not worth time anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
You can make more than that writing your own book on an indie, if it just and have it sell over 10 years, a few copies here and there.
Right.
You make more than that.
Right. So. Yeah. I think I would probably do it just because I've always wanted to do it, but I don't look at that as like, I want my career to be media books. I wouldn't want that anyway. That's not really what I'm after.
It was one of the hardest things I did was to try to recover from the media.
I bet.
You still go on Amazon and you see all the media books.
Right.
As well as my own books now that are all scattered through there.
Right.
But, I'm proud of the media books. I have no problem. I don't regret doing them. It was fun.
That brings up a good question then, is that, do you see, has that hurt you at all in your indie writing career to have those books out there?
Sure. Absolutely. Yes. In the start. About 4 years ago, I decided to really make a run at the indie, and I logged on to Amazon, and I think the first thing that I had up was 5 pages deep, my first original. I mean, because people bought the Star Treks and the Men in Blacks and the Spider-Mans and the X-Men's and all the gaming novels and all the other stuff I did, and so under my name on Amazon, and it was just, and I thought, well, maybe I should just fire up a brand new name, and then Chris convinced me not to do that, and so I just said, okay, my goal is to overwhelm the media books.
Yeah.
And just literally overwhelm them. And so I started doing that, and I've been putting out 25 to 30 major books, not counting the short stories, 25 to 30 major books a year.
Wow.
Now for the last 4 years. And now I've overwhelmed them. I have series that have 7 and 8 and 9 books in them. And
it's not hard when you're putting out 30 books a year, man. Come on. Leave some for the rest of us, man.
I had to overwhelm. I had to get to the point where it wasn't just media books on the first page. When someone Googled my name or logged on to Amazon or something, they saw my books as well as the media books.
Right.
And so that took concentrated effort, and luckily I'm prolific and fast.
Yeah.
And I love to write, and I could do it.
Yeah. So now you're
people,
just.
If they are.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Now I'm just going on.
Yeah, you
keeping going.
You're just prolific now. You're an eclectic.
Yeah, I'm very across the board. I mean, I write science. I write big space opera. I write time travel westerns, and I write puzzle mysteries.
So
those are my 3 major series. Plus,
how many hours a day are you spending writing?
Oh, not very many.
Yeah,
2 or 3.
Yeah,
is all. Yeah.
Yeah,
I write about 1,000 words an hour.
Yeah, it's surprising to people. I'm the same, by the way. I mean, I do maybe 2 hours a day writing these days. For a time, I was putting in 10, 12 hours a day. I'd do crazy amounts of writing, but now it's more like two hours tops. And I still have the same volume of work coming out, which is interesting. But people are usually surprised by that.
If you're consistent, that's the key.
Yeah.
If you just do it every day, 2,000 or 3,000 words a day adds up to enormous amounts very quickly.
Yeah.
And especially when novels are 40, 50,000 words. I mean, I went down to Las Vegas in January and I did this, as on my blog so people could follow it. And I said, well, I used to say I can't write when I'm traveling. And I decided, well, I'm just convincing myself I couldn't write while I'm traveling. So I literally went down to Vegas, blogged all the way down about getting ready, and I was in a hotel room in a casino in Vegas down there, and I wrote a novel in 5 days. I wrote one of my puzzle mysteries in 5 days.
Nice.
And it's actually out now. People could read it. They could see what I did in 5 days.
See, that's
and
cool.
So, it's just, and I still played in poker tournaments. I still hung around with my friends and had dinner with all my friends that were down there at the time.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't me going down there and being isolated. It was me going down there on vacation. And, I'll write a novel while I'm doing it. What the heck?
Right. That's what the heck?
Yeah.
Now that's cool,
what
though.
The heck?
Yeah. And I mean, I've done that. I've done some ridiculous things too. Like I'm gonna write 60,000 words today, and then and Scotch helps when you're doing that sort of thing. But
and a good back and arm braces.
There's a reason I've never done it since. Okay, just because you can do something once. But I think also you hit the right note there that it's about consistency. So the other question I know people are going to want to ask, so I'm going to ask it is, how do you market your work? Like, how do you get the word out there that you have a book? It might not be that hard now.
I just put it out.
Yeah,
I just put it out. We're at WMG. We have 6 employees at WMG.
Yeah.
We also have 2 stores that are brick and mortar stores, as well here in town in WMG that have employees in them. But WMG has a publisher, Alison Longuera. She runs the company, and basically we're doing. We do the newsletters, we do all the standard stuff, and they announce it in WMG, and it goes out. We're doing different kinds of ads here and there. We don't go after the bookstores very much.
Yeah.
We're only going after the readers, and so. But mostly my advertising is someone somewhere will pick up either a short story or a book, read it, go, oh, I wonder what else, and then they'll start into a series, and then they'll read the series, and it's just a standard thing. But now I have enough stuff that they can do that.
Yeah.
Without getting sidetracked too much into Star Trek, where I make no money.
Right. Well, and plus, like you said, you're writing short fiction and selling it to markets that basically are paying you to advertise you, which I think that qualifies as brilliant marketing, actually. So, bravo.
Yeah. And I also have my own magazine, the Smith's Monthly, which has been going now for. I'm in the 4th year, and so I have subscribers to that, and I have a Patreon, and I have my blog, and although on my blog I don't tend to spend a lot of time on my own writing.
Yeah.
Every so often someone gives me a lecture. I should spend more time on your own writing on your blog, and I'm like,
nah, whatever.
They know I'm a writer. I'll mention that I'm out there, and then every so often, if I'm writing a novel, I'll actually detail out day by day how many words I got on the novel done.
Yeah.
And people like watching that. They like watching, the progress along. I'll start doing that here this spring as I start doing a lot of books again.
Yeah.
And so it's that sort of thing it's sort of a more of a word of mouth type of thing. And I have a lot of titles, so it adds up.
Yeah.
I don't have to sell a lot per title either.
Right. And that's a key that I tell people all the time is, you don't have to make a ton of money per book to make a living at this. You just got to have a lot of books. And that's what you want to do anyway, right?
You just got to have Exactly. Yeah, you got to have a lot of books. That's the key element.
Yeah.
Is you got to have a lot of books.
So
or a lot of product. I mean, that's why
Go ahead.
That's why marketing a short story, when you put it out a standalone, I put them out at $2.99 electronic and $4.99 paper. I actually do paper for my short stories, most of them, and then I also do put them in a collection which I'm starting a whole new collection series called The Collected Smith, and that's just getting started. And so there'll be 5 stories there. So the same story is out standing alone. It's in the collection, and then it was also in my magazine somewhere. Yeah. And so literally that's doing triple duty. So that one short story is making little trickles of money all over the place.
Right. Yeah. That's the way to do it. Yeah. So in Smith,
the way to do it.
Smith's Monthly. I'm never going to be able to say that properly. In your magazine,
yes.
Is it just your work, or do you take on other writers as well?
Nope, just mine.
Just yours.
I do 70,000 words a month, and just mine. I have one novel every month, a short 4 or 5 short stories every month, and something serialized every month.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a serialized novel. Sometimes it's a serialized one of the nonfiction writing books, or I had a golf book I wrote and I put that in there.
Nice.
It's just so it's a novel, 4 short stories, and something serialized. And it's all mine. 70,000 words of mine every month.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
that's
totally. But you can do it in the new world.
Yeah, that's and that's really what it's all about. I mean, it's kind of I don't know. I'm one of these people that I will stop and consider like the profundity of what is going on in the world around me every now and then, and that's one of those things that just blows my mind. Is that I have a career now that couldn't have existed in its current form anyway. It could not have existed back when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Well,
so
my career right now I would not be writing anymore. I'd be done. Because I just couldn't deal with the New York and the traditional, and I never would sign a New York contract now. I would, losing all the copyright. I would never have done that now.
Yeah, no.
So I would be done. I'd be off playing poker somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So it's kind of incredible.
And I want to say something. What you guys are doing from the indie side, what you guys are doing at Draft to Digital is just awesome.
Oh,
I mean, you're doing so many good things, and that universal link thing that you guys came up with. I don't know who came up with that, but holy smoke!
I can take zero credit for the universal book links, but I do find that to be the coolest thing that we do. Like I know we have a lot of cool stuff, and we do a lot for authors, but
unbelievable.
For me, that was the thing that was the very first thing that I was involved with when I joined the company. And it has blown my mind. It blew my mind then. It's blown my mind ever since. So I'm glad you appreciate it.
What you guys do, and all of us indie writers out here do. Out in the world, what you guys are doing at Draft to Digital is just a godsend to so many of us.
I'll let them know that. So, all right. Well, we're kind of coming up on time, and I want to respect your time. So is there anything else you want to is there anything you want to pitch? Like you got something coming up you want to announce, or? No.
Okay. Nothing really. I'm just, going on doing my thing.
Good deal. All right. Well, so for everybody listening, all the things we talked about, I tried to keep a nice little journal of this as we were going, but you ought to be able to find pretty much everything in the show notes of this episode. And of course, you want to check out DeanWesleySmith.com. If you're an author in particular, I think you're going to enjoy that website. And readers, of course, can find his work there and on Amazon and elsewhere. He's not shy. He's out there. Easy to find. And so, Dean, I really appreciate you being on the show, man. I've looked forward to this ever since you and I connected.
Well, thank you, and thanks, and good luck with your writing, too. I really appreciate the time on this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You hang out for just a second, and everyone else stick around for the wrap up of the show. All right, that was my interview with Dean Wesley Smith. One of the things that I kind of dig about what he does, so basically he's just constantly writing, which is something I tell everyone to do. And he has built on his previous success. But you heard it from his own lips. I mean, he basically had to start over when he started self-publishing. Anything other than the Star Trek books, the media tie-in stuff. So, he had to go through a lot of the same hoops, jump through a lot of the same hoops that we other indie authors have to jump through and build his career just like we do. So I think he's a great example. But one of the things that kind of hit home with me was the idea of short fiction, which I have had a personal experience with. I wrote I committed to writing a short story a day for 30 days a couple of years ago, and found that was one of the best tools for growing my audience. I mean, it just worked so well. I posted a short story every day, which was a bit taxing. But if you were to just commit to a short story every single week, I think you could grow your following, your readership, pretty easily. Now, I say this, and I keep talking about doing it, and yet have yet to do it. But and that's because I've got other things going on that no. Those are excuses. The reason I haven't done it is because I haven't set aside the time to do it. That's why I haven't done it. So, but I would recommend it. If you want to grow your readership, if you want to build up a nice following and promote your work, I think short fiction is a great way to go. I would post it on your blog. Dean may disagree with some of my philosophy and strategy here, but one strategy I recommend is post something on your blog, get feedback, update it, fix it, do whatever you got to do to it, make it as appealing to your audience as possible. And then after about a month or two, just like Dean was saying, you've got a collection of short stories that you can publish in a volume. I love that he has his own magazine that I forget the name of it. I'm sorry. I think it's Smith's Monthly. That's what it is. Smith's Monthly. That's very difficult for me to say. But something along those lines is very cool. I mean, put that out, and if you've got a loyal following, they will buy it. And what I would recommend there is to write some original material, whether it's an essay or another short story, as part of that, so that even the people who have faithfully read and kept up with you on your blog get something new out of picking that up. Another effective tool, by the way, is gratitude. Thank the people who comment on your blog and give you feedback. The people who have helped you shape that work. Put a little gratitude page in your little publication there. You do this in books all the time anyway. There's a thank you section sometimes. Do that. I mean, that will help a lot. And people who are being named in there, first of all, I would post that list also on your blog to say, this is the list that's going into the book, and people will see that and appreciate it, and they'll probably buy that just because their name's in it, and they'll tell other people about it. So you get word of mouth advertising. That's the best there is. I mean, you can spend $1 million on marketing and promotion, and you will never beat out the word of mouth, the benefits of word of mouth advertising, word of mouth marketing, word of mouth promotion. I mean, the people who are your raving fans who go out and promote you free of charge, that's going to outpace anything you can pay for. There isn't a book bub on the planet that's going to be better than that. So do that. And I think that pretty much wraps us up for the week. I really appreciate everybody kind of dropping in and saying hello, and all the great feedback I get whenever you guys drop in on the website. You can do that, by the way. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can there's a number of things you can do. You send me an email from there on the contact tab. You can check out my work, which is really cool. Click on the books tab and you'll see all my books that are currently available. And you can buy those from practically anywhere. You can send me a voicemail from the wordslingerpodcast.com homepage. Click the little send voicemail tab on the right-hand side. Some people just choose to record their message and send it to me directly, and I'm fine with that too. In fact, if you want to do that, here's my email address. And this is difficult. Well, it's easier if you just go through the contact button, but you can email me anytime at kevin@tumlinson.net. And then it's just easier probably to reach me through the contact button on the site, though, because now you don't have to write anything down. Just remember wordslingerpodcast.com. Anyway, those are all great ways to reach me, contact me, ask me anything. You can, if you would like to support the show in any way, there's a couple ways that I would appreciate you doing that. Number one is go and rate and rank the show on iTunes, and anywhere else you can, wherever you listen to it, give it a thumbs up or 5 stars or whatever their ranking method happens to be. Write an actual review if you don't mind, and if you're capable of doing that with whatever tool you're using. Sometimes they don't enable you to do that. But if you can leave a review and say why you like the show, what it is about the show that motivates you, and why other people should listen, that helps a lot. And then you can help the show financially by going to the Patreon account for it. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com, click the Patreon logo, and you can donate any amount you want, any monthly amount you want, and it's very helpful. I've paid for new equipment. Actually, right now you're listening to me on a brand new mic stand. I'm actually just testing this one out because I'm going to carry it when I travel, and it works just fine. So I can attest to its quality. I bought a Manfrotto desktop. It's not really a mic stand. It's actually a tripod, but for like a camera. But my H4n has that same mount, so I'm able to use it. So that's been very helpful to me. I've got my regular mic stand. I'll probably just continue to use at home. And this one goes in my travel kit so that I can record on the road. So would not have it if not for you. Do I sound different? Because I'm on a different mic stand. Just checking. Anyway, so I appreciate all that support. I had a great conversation with Chris Austin from Draft to Digital over the past week. I was in Oklahoma City this past week. And had a great conversation with him about Patreon, actually, which has inspired some ideas. I have been threatening to do this for years now. I will find a way, I will find time to go through and sort of create a much better Patreon campaign, one that doesn't rely on a video that's like 4 years out of date, and actually may offer some incentives for different levels of donation. So it's just something you got to get around to, you know. I mean, other people have already put in their time, the cost of time to do it. I just need to do it. See how lazy I can get? It's because I got 4,000 things to pay attention to. No excuses. So, all right. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless each and every one of you. I just appreciate you. I know I can be a little difficult to deal with and live with out in the real world sometimes. I appreciate you looking past some of my flaws and foibles, my ultra-conservative views at times, that sort of thing, and just, supporting me anyway. That's the way I feel, the same way. Regardless of how we may see the world differently, I greatly appreciate that we are both here to see it together. So God bless all of you. Take care of yourselves out there, and I will see you next week.
Word Slinger.